Welcome, everybody. We're really, really pleased to be with you today. Thank you so much for coming. And I wanted to start with a quote that I love by Gary Schneider. He says, "Each living being is a swirl in the flow, a formal turbulence, a song. The land, the planet itself is also a living being at another pace." So the tides gift us this opportunity to enter the flow of one of these different rhythms. And by focusing on this fluctuating pulse, which links us all across the globe and touches every body of water on the planet in some way, we open to a space for drawing together and exploring some of the different ways people and more than humans experience, shape, and are shaped by the tides. Through high water, we're going to make space to listen to the tide, or for the tide to speak through our stories, our knowledge, and our artwork. This event, we hope, is the first in a series of annual events that mark high water, and we wanted to create this event to share a greater sense of self and a greater sense of family. Rachel Carson, who's a scientist, a writer, and a scribe of the sea in the last century, relates that although the forces that set the tides in motion are cosmic, the nature of the tides at any particular place are a local matter, with astonishing differences occurring within very short geographical distances. So we are so delighted that you've come here today to join us and to respond to this call from tide lines on the edge of our island, at the United Kingdom. We're in Exmouth, Devon, and with art.earth just a few miles west along the coast in our first collaboration. So this event provides a vital and urgent reminder of fellow edge dwellers all around the world for whom the tide and its changes might mean many different things at a time of climate and ecological emergency. And the ways that this plays out on our Earth systems can be really different. And we know that there are many people missing from this year's conversation. As Senior Linda from Norway put so eloquently in a fantastic podcast, which I really recommend, called The Tidal Sense, which is on BBC iPlayer, the tides and the intertidal zone can also provide a frame for contemplating change and climate change, and coming to terms with the incoming waters, which will eventually cover our lands, as they have in the past. The inhabitants of the intertidal zone, all these other amazing creatures that live here with us, have much to teach us about the resilience of living in one of Earth's most dynamic systems. Welcome for people that are still coming in. And our event today has some of this, an energetic momentum of an unstoppable tide. And we've done as best we can to fit as many contributors from our open call into the day as we could. So there's going to be an ongoing flow, which you can dip in and out of, and we'll be here the whole way through. Inevitably, there'll be technical glitches and challenges. So we ask your patience to ride the ups and downs with us and enjoy the different textures and themes of the day. Over to you, Richard.
Yeah, thanks, Anne-Marie. Hello, I'm Richard Pavel from art.earth. I know some of you and don't know quite a lot of you. So welcome. I just wanted to go through one or two practical things, just to say, first of all, please do use the chat function. So if you're not familiar with that, you can click on the little chat, little tiny chat window at the bottom, and that will bring up a window. Please do use that to communicate. You can communicate to all of us or just to an individual. And if you, so we ask that you respond in chat respectfully. I'm sure you all will, with consideration for everyone else who's in. We are muting people's microphones, so we may at some point just mute everybody, and that's just because if there's the tiniest bit of background noise, that the microphones will amplify it and nobody will be able to hear anything. So if you find yourself muted, don't panic. We can ask you to unmute yourself when it's time to talk. And ideally, please do keep your camera on, because if you don't, it just kind of looks like you're ignoring us a bit. So that would be good to see everybody who's around. So before we go out to the estuary to meet Joe, which we'll do in just a minute, we just wanted to say a huge thank you to everybody, not only everyone who's contributed, but everyone who's joining us as well, because we're fully booked for the day. And there will be some disappointed people who won't be able to join us. We're all in our own ways tied to the ocean. Living in the UK, it's hard not to be tied to the ocean in some way. But I think an awful lot of us who are joining today are coastal dwellers or coastal beings or swimmers or people who have a close relationship with the water. So it's a joyous thing to be celebrating this high tide on what feels like a real spring day. And I just want to say thank you to the people in the back stage who you will not see. We have Hayley Holt and Emma Whitaker from the University of Plymouth, who are at the university after huge health and safety hoo-has. We'll be playing out films and things like that. And then many of you, certainly the participants, will know Eliska Novakova, who's joining us from the Czech Republic today, has done a huge amount of work on this project and has been our assistant producer. She's busy monitoring the people as you come in and anything, and monitoring the chat and things like that. So we're quite a team. It's just that there are two people you'll see, and there's lots of other things going on in the background. So thank you everyone so much for joining us, and off we go on our 13.5-hour romp. And I'm going to invite Joe to come in from outdoors in the estuary. Hi, Joe. We can't hear you. Can you unmute? Oh, we've lost him. Oh, dear. Okay, here we go. Still can't hear you, Joe.
Okay,
now we can. Now we can.
I'm really hoping you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
My name's Joe Salter. I am half of Tidelines, a project focusing on the estuary here in Exmouth in Devon, UK. Tidelines brings together artists, scientists, and the community around the estuary to celebrate, explore, and care for our home, the estuary, with particular regard to how it's changing in part through the changing global climate. I'm standing in front of the estuary now. This is, on my right, you can see out to sea, where the current will be going in a minute.
Screen's gone off again.
And over here you can see Dawlish Warren and the ferry, which is very close. And Exmouth's identity effectively is where the estuary narrows, and over the other side you can see the estuary beginning to go upriver or up estuary for 7 miles, and it's currently excitingly full. Dawlish Warren, which is over there, is a spit that protects this huge mass of water that comes down and has to go in and out between here and there every day. And it's quite thin and slightly vulnerable, but it protects the entire estuary. This is the moment of high tide. Our tide here in Exmouth is sometimes quite furious and fast when it's in full flow, and a bit of a challenge to boats. But at high tide, there is kind of, as in everywhere, there is a brief moment where everything is very peaceful. And a few moments ago, I looked at the tide and it was racing past me, and now it's coming slowly to a standstill. So we're actually at the moment of high tide. This is also the day of the year where the highest tide is. And it's also the day where right now lots of boats are lifting in reed beds and mud flats and hidden nooks and crannies in estuaries all over the place, because people have to get their boats out today. So today I'm going to do a simple thing. I'm going to launch a boat and an idea. And this idea, is perhaps the high water event itself. Can I now introduce you to the boat? This boat was washed up on the beach in the Western Isles. It's beautifully made, and it's made by somebody who possibly knows quite a lot about boats. I don't know who made it. It's an unknown maker. And yeah, and it was made in a day when people knew more about boats than we knew about cars 15 years ago. So I decided to make a replica of that. This was, by the way, Western Isles of Scotland, I should say, right on the fringes of the UK. So I decided to make a replica of that, and this is mine. It's probably not as good, but I've done my best. And the difference we've made is that we have put some people in it. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, so I'm going to launch this boat out onto the current, which hopefully is now standing still, and it may well head off out to sea. And if it doesn't go, to help it on its way, I have a fishing rod, my fly fishing rod, that I can prod it out. Is there a meaning to this? For me, it's an intuitive thing. So in a way, I don't know why I'm doing it. It's a ritual, perhaps, or an offering. It's certainly a launching. A launching, for me, is taking a risk, a bold move into the unknown. Regarding the people, well, you could say that as a species, we are vulnerable, and we need to respect and understand the force that is nature. So I'm now going to take it to the current and release it and see where it goes. And it's not coming back, at least not today. Okay.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much. Well, we're now going to switch to Mary Holly. Mary, are you with us?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we've got you. Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm a climate artist focusing on the coastlines and specifically on ocean acidification and sea level rise. And I'm at Firestone Bay, close to Devonport at the moment. So just to briefly talk you through the bay, if we look over here, we've got the artillery tower, which was built in the time of Henry VIII. So that's around 1537. Then we have a tunnel, which is used to supply sort of Royal Navy ships during the 1800s, during the ebb tides. Of course, over the side here, HMS Beagle was moored, and Charles Darwin went on board there and embarked on its way to the Galapagos Islands. And then as we go further around, we of course come to Drake's Island, and Drake was the governor of there, and he received his governorship after circumnavigating the globe. Of course, here is the tidal pool, which is currently completely underwater. So I've moved across to these stone steps. If we look at the artwork they've made, so this artwork is like very, very simple, and it's just sort of looking at how we are sort of out of balance with nature. And in the center, we have sort of some foil sheets that just sort of spell out in binary code my age and the age of my daughter. So it's just thinking about climate change, sea level rise, and how it's sort of an intergenerational problem in terms of the world we're leaving to our sort of, our future generations, and what's at stake in terms of our stewardship of the world at the moment, in terms of securing this future for us and for nature, for the natural world. It's not very well understood, but sort of projections of sea level rise are currently for about 1 meter in Plymouth by 2100. But in the past, sea level rise doesn't just sort of gradually go up, it goes up in pulses. And those pulses can be really quite severe in terms of pulses of 14 meters over sort of 400 years. And in the same time period of 400 years, another pulse of 26 meters. And that happened at the end of the last interglacial period. And scientists currently don't really understand how that happened, although there are various ideas of what happens in terms of ice sheet collapse and glacier collapse in the Antarctica. And that's it really. So I think sort of over our lifetime and over the lifetime of our children, we're going to see the coastlines change an awful lot in terms of sea level rise, because it's a huge concern for biodiversity and life, on our coasts and how people sort of make their living. So something we always need to keep in mind and sort of do whatever we can to sort of address and mitigate against. And I'm so glad my sculpture hasn't sunk yet. So I think over the summer I'm going to continue to work sort of along the coast of Plymouth. I think on Thursday I'm going to do a piece at Marine Station and continue to sort of experiment with different artworks, different forms of expression sort of all around the coastline. hopefully I want to do some work out on Drake's Island on the beach out there to see what I can do there and see if I can make something large enough so that it's visible to the people of Plymouth, similar to the sort of No New Worlds sort of interventional piece that was done sort of right across the bay on the other side. So that's sort of my intention over the summer. I think lastly to say, sort of obviously this area is very famous for sort of morning and evening swimmers. I think they swim every New Year's Day.
Mary.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much for sharing your sculpture and getting up so early to come out this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Great. We're going to move on now to the Supermares with Sam Francis.
Hi!
Oh, hi.
You're ready to go? Shall I send them down?
Yeah. Can you turn the screen sideways? Would you be able to just turn? Yeah.
It is sideways, mate.
I know, but you're on you're kind of at 90 degrees to us. That's better.
Like that?
Now you're standing on the floor. Wow, hello.
Hello, I can hear you. What's the problem?
No, it's fine now. We're all good.
You want it portrait, yeah?
That's working well. We can see
Okay, so shall I send them down?
Yeah.
Okay, ladies. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, swim! Hi! Go, go, go!
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the supermares? Can you hear me? Maybe not.
I will. Oh, sorry. I
Sam Francis asked me to just share a little bit about the Supermares, which is this group of swimmers you're seeing in Western Supermare, which is in the Bristol Channel. So she says the Supermares are an ever-expanding group of sea swimmers and dippers. And the Bristol Channel, as some of you might know, if you're living in the UK, has a huge tidal range. I think possibly one of the largest in the world. And Western Supermare sits on the edge of the Bristol Channel, and there's only a small swimming window every day. So it's literally about every half an hour each side of high tide that you can actually, that it's safe to go in the water. So the Supermares are at the will of the tides, and we'll be joining them again tonight as they swim again around 9 o'clock with torches at night. So you'll be able to see them going through the excruciating pain of entering cold water at 9 o'clock at night.
Go for it. No, be there all night. Look at me.
There's been a huge upsurge in outdoor sea swimming during lockdown in the UK. I don't know if that's happened in the places that you live, but it's in Exmouth where I live. Literally, I would say a few hundred people now swim regularly in the sea. And we just have a little bit of space now, like 2 or 3 minutes. If you wanted to add in the chat, if you've noticed anything like this where you live, the fact that people perhaps during this time want to make contact with the water or something's changing. Any thoughts on that? Hi.
Very quiet in here.
Thank you, Supermares. We're going to move to Andy Thatcher. Andy, are you here? I think he's in the meeting somewhere. Might need unmuting.
Andy is in the meeting somewhere.
Yes.
There he is.
Yeah, he's unmuted and he's on camera according to this.
Yeah, we've got him. Hi, Andy.
Can you talk over it?
We can see you. We can't hear you. Oh, he's connecting. Brilliant. Nice to. Andy, we can see beautiful images of you on the estuary near at Topsham, but we can't hear you just yet.
Right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Brilliant.
Ah, fantastic. Right. Did you hear me waffling on about where I am and what I did?
No.
No, okay. Okay, well, I live in Exeter, so we're in Topsham on the Exe estuary, and I'm quite obsessed with the M5 bridge, which you can see in the background here. And the landscape underneath it is really quite fascinating. But during a very high tide, there's a footpath between Exeter and Topsham, which gets cut off. And I've got cut off on it once or twice. You'll see film of the tide inundating it when I come to make my film later this evening. But the thing that I found really fascinating, I came to Topsham for the King Tide 2 years ago. And when I came that year, the whole of this area, which you can see here, was flooded. So, even though the tide doesn't vary an awful lot on the Exe estuary, the difference in King Tide is absolutely enormous. And when I came for the King Tide 2 years ago, it was actually in the night. It was about 9 o'clock in the evening or something like that, and it was really, really dark. There's no moon or anything, and so I couldn't really see it, but I could hear it. I could hear the tide creeping through the grass, and this strange kind of gurgling sound. There you go. There's a nice classic shot over there as well. You've got some swans doing what they do. And yeah, you can see the M5 bridge in the background. You can see that actually the tide has just passed its peak as well. So we've got a little bit. There we go. So it's on its way out. There we go. It really is a lovely spot. There's somebody waving at me. That's good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I think that might have been Leslie, who's literally going straight after you.
Oh right, okay.
Yes, it is. She lives in the houses just.
Oh really? Oh, that would be fun. She's literally going straight after me. Well, if she can go out the window, then I can maybe film her, and we can have an amazing piece of continuity. How amazing! And you'll be able to see the King Tide as it's swamped to the footpath as well.
Talking about the high pressure, it gets quite.
Yeah, obviously the tide is affected by lots of other things, wind direction, pressure, and we've got really high pressure today, which is probably keeping it
down. Yeah, you see, before, I wouldn't have been able to go along this footpath at all. You can see you can walk along it. I don't think you get very far though. There we go.
Great. Okay, so we'll see you later, Andy, with your film.
Indeed, you will. Thanks for inviting me. Enjoy your days.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Shall I ask them to unmute?
Thanks, yeah. Hi, Leslie.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
You can't see me, can you?
Yes, we can now. Yeah.
Oh, you can see me.
Yes, and hear you.
Oh, wow. Right. Okay, great.
Okay. Amazing seeing.
Oh no, just a minute. I've got to turn you round because it's Graham talking first, and I've got to turn the camera. There you are.
Okay. Am I on?
Yeah, you're there.
Hi guys. Well, I'm here where Andy was, and I built my first boat here when I was 10 years old, That was in 1955. And here is a picture of my first boat. And I'm in the middle. And this is my friend Alex, who's 8, and his brother Lawrence, who's 6. And they can swim, but I can't swim until I'm 12. And we repeatedly cross the river in this little boat. But nothing could have prepared me for stepping out of the boat on the opposite shore. Because for the first time in my life, I felt safe. And I think the reason I felt safe was because I'd been able to distance myself from the world by water. And I think water gave me this psychological security. From that day on, although I couldn't swim, I didn't have a life jacket, I regarded the river as my friend. And from that day onwards, I've collected materials and driftwood from the shore to use in my artwork. An amazing thing happened one day. I was on the quay at Topsham, and a friend of mine was restoring a wooden boat that he'd found in the river. And I was leaving the quay, and he gave me a piece of wood to work with. And I've got a picture of it here. And that's the piece of wood. And what I did was I scratched this boat onto the wood. And I showed it to my my gallerist, Gordon Hepworth. And he looked at it and he said, wow, he said, that will sell. And we're at the London Art Fair, and we've been open for 20 minutes, and a woman comes up and buys this piece. And we don't think anything more about it. And then the next year, we're back again at the London Art Fair, and she returns it in a brown paper parcel. She says, can I change this artwork for another one? And Gordon says, well, what's the matter with that one? And she says, my husband doesn't like the drowning men. And I look at it, and Gordon looks at it, and Gordon winks at me, and he says, don't worry, Graham, it'll sell, it'll sell. 20 minutes later, another woman comes along and buys the piece. And we don't think anything more about it until we're opening in Cork Street in Gallery 27. And we've invited all these people to the opening, and they're all drinking champagne. And this woman walks in with this parcel. Can I change this painting for another painting? And Gordon says, well, what's the matter with it? And she says, my husband can't stand the drowning men. And when he looks at it, he can hear screaming. And Francis Bacon draws the scream, paints the scream, but I've never heard a Francis Bacon scream. And she's saying this painting screams. Anyway, it goes into the store, and we forget about it until 2007, and I'm showing in Bond Street in the Fine Arts Society, and the director, Toby Clark, says, I'm not selling that without a health warning. And this lady turns up, and she wants it. She just wants it. And Toby explains to her, hang on, this painting has a history. It's been sold twice and it's come back. And she says, no, I want it. And she says an incredible thing when she hears the story. She says, no, 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 that is my happy painting. And what she's done is she hangs it in her house. She sees it every day. And what she's done is she's laid the ghost.
You've forgotten to say where the wood came from.
Where the wood came from. Oh wow, yeah, that's incredible.
The point of the story.
The point of the story is that the wood came from Topsham Quay, and I go back later, and my friend, who's still working, he's still restoring this boat. He says to me, you know, what happened to my piece of wood? And I tell him the story, and this is the point of what I'm saying. He says, that's incredible, because I've just discovered that my boat went to Dunkirk. And boats have stories and boats have narratives, but his boat seemed to possess ghosts.
Oh, now you do me.
Right.
So you have to just turn. Can you see me?
Yeah, go.
Right. Well,
This is Leslie now.
Graham makes work from found material, and I thought I'd explain about something that happened to me with found material. Because it's a piece of work called Tide Lines. I suddenly remembered I'd made it. I received this envelope in the post. It was about 3 days after my birthday, and it contained a note, and it was from our friend, Michael Tucker, who's an artist. And the note says, a collection of 54 fragments deposited on the high tide line at Budleigh Salterton on the morning of July the 31st, 1996. Well, July the 31st is my birthday. I was 54 that year, and he picked up 54 pieces of debris from the tide line. So I pulled them out, one after the I started to look at them, and I thought, well, actually, this is such a momentous gift. I've got to do something with it. So I started to draw it, but I pulled the things out at random and just drew something. One after the other. I was printmaking, so I had lots of strips of paper that you tear off from the bottom of print, so that I started to draw them on bits of paper. And there's one there, just a bit of the drawing. So soon I had all these strips of drawings of rubbish from Budleigh Salterton Tide Line. It was fascinating to draw because you didn't know what you were going to have to draw next. Well, I should say that when I was a student, Victor Passmore, who taught me, was working on Peter Lee. So I've always been interested in public art. And about this time, the Arts Council organised a 2-day event for 12 artists in Devon. They were trying to help us get into making public art, how to cost it, how to argue for it, how to respond to briefs and all that sort of thing. And they said you could have an artist-initiated project, which meant that you might have an idea and you had to find someone so that you could realise this idea. So I'm thinking about public art and what's it going to be like? Incidentally, one of the amazing things on that course was the example they held up as a brilliant example was my own son's work in London, but that's another story. Anyway, so I had just had a major operation, and I knew that when you come out of a major operation, you have to learn to walk again. So I was walking along this corridor, and somehow it came together with this strip of drawings that I was doing. I thought, well, if this drawing was along a corridor, you could walk to one fragment, and then maybe the next day you could walk a little bit further because you have to walk further every day. So I got in touch with Jeff at Exmouth, Jeff Porter, who did all our framing, and he made me a frame. And now you pass the camera to me, because I made this virtual tide line. Turn it round. Can you see that? It's 30 foot long, and I'm going to walk you down it. I hope you can see it as I go. What I didn't like about public art was that so often it was very big, overpowering. It was more like decoration. There were lots of commissions for gateways at the time, because really nobody could think beyond that sort of thing. Anyway, you're walking down my timeline now. I hope you can see it.
Leslie?
They're going to cut me off in a minute.
Leslie?
Yes?
Can you
Hello?
can you hold the camera still on some of the spaces, because we really want to try and see the detail.
Right, okay.
Just choose a bit for us to look at.
There's a bit.
Lovely. Yeah, that's a little bit clearer. If you hold it still, we could start to see it.
See, there's strange things. There's very strange things. They're not things that you would normally draw at all, which made it quite an exciting thing to do.
Lovely.
Maybe I should speed up now because I'm running out of time, I think.
Yeah, Leslie, also, if we could get an image of this and share it on the website afterwards so people could see it in detail, that would be absolutely gorgeous. I don't know how difficult it'll be to do that because it's so long.
You see, it's supposed to be up on the wall. I'm showing it to you on the floor because that's the only place I can put it in our house. So.
Lovely.
And I'm just coming to the end now. So it's the longest artwork I've ever made.
Wow.
Right, that's it.
That's great.
Okay.
We have a real sense of it. That's wonderful.
Oh, good.
Thank you so much, Lizzie. That's amazing. And thank you, Graham. Fantastic.
Okay. I think we're going to have a little...
now.
We're going to have a little bit of a...
thing.
Oh, do you want to turn off your set? We can probably mute.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Okay, lovely. So we're going to have a little bit of a break now because we've got such a marathon and we thought we should have breaks when we can. So we're going to just show a little film for the next 6 minutes on a loop, and yeah, we'll see you back at 9:30
with Kathy Hine.
With Kathy Hine. Thank you.
Okay, Haley, if you can stop that for us, I think we will see if we've got Kathy with us. Kathy, are you there?
I am here. Hello.
Excellent, wonderful.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
We can see you well, and that's all good. Would
Great.
you like to go on? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, thanks for inviting me to join you. So that was wonderful seeing the estuary earlier. So I'm bringing you now, I'm transporting you to a slightly more urban environment. Can you hear me okay? Just to check.
Yes, we can.
It's quite noisy, there's a lot of traffic. So yeah, I'm in Bristol, and so yeah, a little bit of background about me. I'm an artist. Well, I grew up in the Midlands, but I've always loved swimming in the sea and wild swimming. So, you know, growing up in the Midlands meant I had to keep trying to escape the way to the sea. And I've lived in Bristol now for about 15 years. And it's the closest I've ever lived to the sea, but I'm not actually on the sea. But it is actually a place where I've become much more aware of the tides than anywhere else I've ever been. Because Bristol has got the second largest tidal range in the whole world. So throughout the day, I'm actually making 3 different time-lapse films of the tide coming in, out, and in again at Bristol, which I'll be sharing on the Tidelines website after the event. So I'm just going to switch my camera around, give you a little introduction to the edge point of Bristol. So this is a really amazing location. I'm actually on top of a road bridge. Have a quick look at that. So it's quite hectic and noisy up here. But what I love about this spot is it gives you this incredible view. And I always find it fascinating where you can see just that edge point of the city where all the kind of urban sort of stops, and it's chiseled away. It's this chasm of water that flows, the Avon Gorge that separates the city from the woodland. So over the last year, I've been really getting to know the sounds of Bristol's waterways. And I'm just going to give you a quick look at some things with this, which is my trusty hydrophone, my underwater microphone. So at some other points during the day, I'm going to give you a taster of listening underwater from Bristol. Okay, so we're just at the highest tide at the moment. Now, I've got to say, I did think it was going to flood today. It's very, very close. You can see here it's very, very close to flooding. And it did actually flood last year in the equinoctial tide last year. So it hasn't flooded, so I'm not reporting that. But it's very, very high. And so I'll give you a quick look around. So basically, the Avon Gorge goes off over there, and we'll get a better look at that later. And then here is the entrance lock, where boats and vessels can come in and out of Bristol, but only at a high tide. I actually saw someone paddleboarding out there earlier. And then the River Avon, which goes all the way out to the Port of Avon, along the Avon Gorge, and has this incredible tidal range. It was actually rerouted along the new Avon Cut. It goes behind these big tobacco buildings. And we're going to have a look at that later as well. Anyway, back to the lock. So this lock is open at the moment. There's 2 lock gates that are open. And then these buildings here have kind of had this amazing hydraulic system that opens and closes the locks. Yeah, so these are open for vessels coming in and out at high tide. And then this little building here is where often you see members of Harbour Master team. And yeah, the Harbour Master team actually kind of prevent Bristol from flooding almost every day. As we move around, I'll show you why. So the tide here is probably, I think it's about 11 metres. And we're going to move around. We're going to go over, this is Plimsoll Swing Bridge. So as you can see, there's lots of things flowing, lots of traffic flowing, lots of water flowing, and then there's all these kind of bridges and loops and footbridges. So then when the water comes in through the entrance and exit lock, gets to, wow, the sun's so shiny, gets to the Cumberland Basin. So this is the Cumberland Basin. And actually this time last year, the Cumberland Basin here did actually overflow and was flooding. It's very, very full. And when we see it later in the day, we'll just see the difference of how that looks. And then if we look over here, there is actually another swing bridge. And at that point, we join floating harbour. And the floating harbour stays at 9.5 metres all the time. And you may be thinking, how can that be possible? Because the tide's at 11 metres. Well, basically, there's some stop gates that are closed at the moment over there that the Harbour Master team shut at these high tides to keep the harbour at the right height. So all the boats there could just stay at about 9.5 metres. And I learned something really interesting about the Cumberland Basin from the Harbour Master. And because the tidal range is so huge at the Avon Gorge, there's lots and lots of silt and mud that moves around every time the tide changes, which we'll see later as well. And so that silt and mud, it starts to build up in the Cumberland Basin. So every 2 weeks, they scour the basin, which is absolutely incredible. It's this huge, huge body of water. And what they do at a high tide is they let a little bit of extra water into the floating harbour over there. And then when the tide goes out, they leave the lock open. And then all the water kind of goes out of the Cumberland Basin and it's sort of almost emptied. And then while it's empty, because they made the floating harbour just that little bit higher, they've got some spare water, and then they basically flush the water from the harbour out into the Cumberland Basin, and they scour it and clean it. And I'm yet to see that, but I've got a hot tip that they're going to do it on the 9th of April, so I'll be sure to be back to get some documentation of that. So yeah.
Kathy, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it.
So obviously you're showing us quite an amazing industrial waterway. How far into Bristol can big ships go?
Well, they can actually come right in, because even though you can see they probably couldn't get under this road bridge, this is a swing bridge, this road, the whole road swings. Cool. And you just reminded me to show you this really fantastic control station that I'm standing at. Have a look at this.
Wow.
It's amazing. Like a totally retro sci-fi 70s. And I don't know if you can see it on the feed, but there's this really brilliant map of the lock system and the road system that's made out of cut-out, sticky-backed plastic. So
unfortunately, we can't quite see that, but it sounds amazing.
They've got some graffiti remover here and a hoover. But anyway, I feel like this is a great big synthesizer.
Has anybody got a question they'd like to ask Kathy about what she's doing? We're going to be joining her quite regularly throughout the day as she shows us the basin and plays some recordings. And but we have a couple of minutes, so if anybody would like to unmute themselves and ask a question, please do go ahead. No, okay, deadly silence at the moment. So,
hello.
Yeah.
I could ask, well, just say a few things.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've got a series of photographs from about 2014 of the same site where, for whatever reason, the tide came up slightly higher and came out over the roads, and there were a lot of people out watching. So it is really a spectacle in Bristol still. So are there people out there watching today? How many can you see around?
Well, it's a very sunny day. There's not that many people around. And yeah, it did flood last year because a friend of mine took some pictures, but I've not seen it flooding. I do quite often because I've been coming down here quite a lot. Just over here is a top spot for seeing a kind of combination of this urban, waterway and sort of more rural aspects of the Avon Cut. People do.
Where that white van's just gone, that point on the next bit, a lot of people put flower tributes out there. It's sort of like a memorial spot. People use it.
Oh, okay.
And Anthony Lyons, one of his sculptures he made to mark the very highest tide, it was put there, but it's fallen into the mud, I think.
Oh, right. So you mean just here?
Yeah. I can tell you more, at another time.
That would be really interesting. Well, we could pay a visit to that point.
Absolutely.
And if you're still there, maybe you can tell us a bit more then.
And just over there at low tide, you can see the very remains of the ferry crossing. 2 stone ramps. Well, you can't see the stone ramp on this side, but on the other side, you can see it's a Roham ferry.
You mean over this way?
It's further down, just roughly, if you point the camera right a tiny bit. Somewhere about there. You'll see at a low tide. You'd see the remains of the ferry crossing.
Ah, right. Okay. Well, we'll go there at a low tide. Look, thanks for the tip.
I'd love to. Yeah, I'll mute myself now.
So, what are those sort of boat-like structures with the graffiti on them?
These.
Yeah.
They're the where all the hydraulics system for the lock gates.
Okay.
On either side.
They were replaced at massive expense relatively recently.
Yeah, the mechanics of moving a bridge that size must be unbelievable.
This bridge sorry, no, shush.
No, go.
Well, this bridge used to be manned much more than it is now, and in the office underneath, they had a tide recording machine that recorded the tide every day for hundreds of years, and in various forms until relatively recently. And further up on the right, there was the famous Hotwell's tide recording machine, which there's a model of it in the M Shed, the Industrial Museum, and they used it for scientific purposes.
Has anybody else got something to chip in or a question about? We've just got a couple more minutes before we go on to Laura Martin.
Richard?
Yes.
Could we play maybe one of her short audio or visual? Because we've got 3 minutes.
Yeah, Kathy, was that okay? Can we play one of your, have you got any particular favourite layout now?
I thought maybe as I'm standing at this point, if you could play, I did a time lapse, a short time lapse at the last spring tide at the end of February from this point, and it just shows the tide changing and the lock closing. So that might be a nice thing to close my little intro here at the lock.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure which one that is. Is that
number 1? Yeah, that one.
Oh, okay. That's great. Let's play it.
Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. That's brilliant. Kathy, we'll see you again in about an hour. But I'm hoping that Laura Francis Martin is now with us. There she is, brilliant.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
I can absolutely hear you, yes.
I've got a funny thing on my screen, hold on. Yeah, so it's amazing to be here. That was a delightful a piece of work to arrive to. It was actually, I used to live in Bristol briefly, and it was lovely to see the river flowing in and out. But yeah, so I live in Cornwall in the UK now. When I saw this event advertised, I decided to offer a poem, a piece of poetry that I'd written last year. But actually, it started me thinking about the whole the whole relationship to the tides that I seem to have had throughout my life, having grown up in North Devon. And then lived in Cornwall for 25 years now. I've basically kind of grown up by the tides and lived at the edge of 3 tidal estuaries, including where I live now. So I see the tide coming in and going out right outside my window here. They feel like the heartbeat of my world, really. And I really love seeing the sea pushing in and just reinvigorating the land here. There are salt flats outside the window that were given back to the river a few years ago. There used to be farmed fields, and they were given back, I think it's probably about 25 years ago, in fact, when I arrived in Cornwall. And now they're inhabited by a huge wealth of wildlife. It's absolutely amazing to watch as that sort of pulse comes in and out. But I wanted to also share with you the fact that I have kind of experienced 1,000 beaches in my time. I'm really interested in the difference between estuary tidal living and coastal tidal living, and I'm influenced in my artwork and my writing by both. So I wanted to just show you a little bit, actually, of some of the visual artwork that I've been doing. I'm just going to work out how to share screen. Apparently I'm disabled screen sharing on my, I don't know if you can allow screen sharing.
Yeah, I can. I'm sorry, I just need to find you here, and I will add you as a co-host. There we go. Now you should see.
Okay, so here we go. This is where there we go.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to hold on. There we go. There we go. Okay, so the fact that, you know, basically my art and my writing kind of reflects and captures the states of the tides. Slate shifted on beaches, as you'll see in a minute. Some of the work that I've done is where one huge tide has come in on a Cornish beach and has completely changed the demographic of that beach. So it's completely sorted and sifted all the slate on that beach. And in one far corner, you've got massive round pebbles, and in the other corner, you've got long pebbles like fingers or pebbles or arms. And then you've got tiny little pebbles that echo that and that ripple down the beach. So the work that's coming through now is an expression of tidal living. There are several beaches in Cornwall that I used to gather stones from different parts of the beach. I'll just pause. Hold on, I'll go back to that one. So there are beaches in Cornwall that are very sandy, but they are also where the slate under rock, the geological rock is coming through, and every beach has different kinds of pebble or shingle or sand. So arriving in Cornwall as an artist and a writer 25 years ago, it really feels like the work that came through straight away was this stuff, these amazing expressions of just noticing pattern, noticing resonance, and feeling the tides. This piece here was feathers collected on the lowest astronomical tides on the Isles of Scilly. I actually walked between the islands at the lowest astronomical tide for 80 years. And these feathers were collected on the island of Samson, which is an uninhabited island, only inhabited by bird life. And it felt like a wonderful thing to be able to do, to capture that moment of moment in time when, you know, these islands are only accessible by boat normally, and then, you know, actually on foot you can walk and wade. So that was an extraordinary moment, and this piece of work captures that. If anyone has any questions, by the way, do pop them in the chat. So yeah, even when I've lived in the city, I made my way to the river, and I worked by the river in an old wharfside building, making theatre, because I did theatre at college, that was sort of half immersed in water. And I found that the Thames, even at its grimiest, was kind of the pulse of the city and helped keep me sane, actually, in living in the city. Again, when I lived in Bristol, I would spend a lot of time down in the Cumberland Basin and near the gorge, near the rivers, and just to experience and reconnect with that sort of tidal living. I'm just going to see if I can get out of that one there. Hold on. There's also another little series of work, which, hold on a second, I'm just finding the next
just
one.
giving you a 2-minute warning, though. Just so that
oh God, is that
time.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
I'm so sorry. Oh, I think I got started late, didn't I?
Yeah,
okay.
We'll give you,
I'll stop screen sharing then. I'm going to stop screen sharing. So the thing I wanted to share originally was a piece of writing about a beach that's local to me, that encapsulates the sort of the beaches of my Devon childhood and my Cornish adulthood. And it's very much a meeting point between geological time and personal time and lunar time. And I found myself going there again and again for all sorts of reasons, but always expressing and finding new things to enjoy and experience there. So I'll just very quickly read you this poem that I wrote last year. It's called Lunasa, Crackington. An early August sea, and with a roar, all the sun-warmed summer stones are gone. Now every pulling tide will give no more. Take is all the verb that can go on. Here upon the dark, warm evening beach, a massive full moon sea of line and bar rips the broken season out of reach and shifts the shore through white, green, salted air. A strand line battle zone bears witness to the foam-edged breakers' rolling, tearing beat. Lunasa marks a cruel undertow where line of quartz cuts through the shattered slate. Once where summer lent us skin of grace to dip and curve and move in ocean bright, now we turn away from that same place and leave our summer sea to autumn night. So it's very much to do with the meeting points of geology, of noticing even the fact that the salt is a mutable white mineral that's so present on the beach by the sea, that quartz is such an immutable mineral also there, existing side by side. And I feel like human beings and the sea have a similar relationship, and I hope that that poem sort of captures a little bit of that.
That's wonderful.
I think I'm running out of time.
Yeah, well, that's great. Thank you. Perfect timing. If you will allow us, we'll share that poem on the website afterwards.
Please do. Yes.
Good. That's gorgeous. I live not far from Start Bay, just a mile down the road, and the beach just does change dramatically from day to day. It's quite astonishing, really.
Yes.
You know, if you've had a big easterly or a really big tide, it's quite amazing. how completely different it can look from day to day.
Yes, no, it's amazing. Well, thank you very much for
thank you very much.
It's a very eclectic combination of thoughts and images. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, we're going to go on to Natalie. Natalie, are you with us?
Hi.
Yeah, great.
Yes, I'm here.
You
Hi.
are.
Thanks for having me here. I thought I would take you to a really small burn in Alva. So when I saw the call out, I was really inspired because I grew up in Edinburgh, quite close to the sea, and I feel really far away from it right now because I moved in with my in-laws in December. So I've been here for a few months in Alva, which is a small village, and I'm not near the sea, and it's really strange. It took me a really long time to realise that it was missing, or it's what was missing. And it was one of those strange things that I'm sure I've thought about subconsciously and it's been there, but this event sort of had me noticing much more what was around me. So I feel really far away from the sea, but I think geographically I'm not actually that far. I think I'm only 4 miles away now instead of 2, which is really not that bad. But I have a very different landscape around me. So behind me, you can see a little bit of the Ochils. And from the Ochils, there are so many different streams and burns. So this is one of them. And this is one that I saw on the map that seems to flow nowhere. It's very small. It's Carnotton Burn. And it's one of those ones that you can just walk past. It runs through somebody's house, and then it gets to a metal grid, and it seems to just disappear. But eventually that joins the River Devon, and then on to the River Forth before emerging out of the mouth of Scotland into the North Sea. And I've been thinking a lot about this water. I think I'm so drawn to the ocean. I like standing in the spot where the water meets land. And I always go home with wet feet and I never learn. And it's one of those things where this pull and this to and fro of the ocean, it's not here. And I was thinking about it quite a lot. And I think it's just that water flows away and it doesn't come back. These burns, they all bleed into the sea, but it doesn't ever give back. And I think something that I found really fascinating about the ocean is this giving and receiving almost. It's, a lot of people have spoken already about it, giving back to the land. And rivers and burns just seem to leave. So I guess I just wanted to sort of lead with that a little bit. I probably should have started with who I am. So I'm Natalie. I'm an artist and I work at the Botanic Gardens. So I feel quite. I like that other people also go home with wet feet. And I work at the Botanic Gardens, so I feel really in tune with seasons there through plant life. But again, I think starting to notice where water creeps in and where I find it in my life. A few years ago, in fact, last night I was looking, it was about 10 years ago, I did my first ever performance in the ocean where I echoed King Canute and tried to command the tide to stop, which of course doesn't work. And subsequent performances or live installations have been in buildings placed near water, old mills. And the more I think about it, the more I realise it's everywhere and it's in everything. And even looking at maps last night, I was trying to locate myself truly where all the water bodies were near me. And even just looking at it on a map, they're just veins that run to the sea. And I guess I'm really looking forward to being back by my piece of ocean super soon. So I thought I'd take you to this tiny little burn which pretends to go nowhere, but really it runs under the land before going to the sea. So I think I'll just share it with you for a wee minute. It's not a huge amount of water. Everyone has shown really impressive estuaries and they've been in the ocean, and this is just my little offering of water. So I'll share that with you just now, if I can. Oh, or maybe not. It was going okay. There we go. So this is just a tiny little burn. This is Connaughton Burn. And I could have taken you to a really, really beautiful burn called Alba Burn, which, like all the veins, has Glenwinnell, Strabanster, Auchenharry, and the West Cameron Burn that all flow collectively into the River Devon before heading on to the River Forth. And like I said, the mouth of Scotland. So I'm not really geographically far away, but I'm feeling very far away from my little bit of ocean at the moment. So thanks for having me. That's all I wanted to add, and I just feel like a fellow enthusiast, I guess, of the tide and the pool. And
Natalie, let me ask you a question about the burns.
Yeah.
So are they all channelized? Is a burn necessarily channelized, or does it mean
No,
a small stream?
there's a lot of sort of more natural ones. I think this one, running through a constructed park, has been a bit more man-made.
Yeah.
But the water would still come down here, and of course it doesn't always stay within its man-made barriers, which we've seen from other places as well. It kind of grows out with that. And even I've only been here for about 40 minutes this morning. I hadn't imagined taking you to Connaughton Burn, because I don't think it's the prettiest and maybe not a true example of a burn. But even for the last 40 minutes, you can really hear the change in pace and the flow, and you can almost hear it slow down, and then you get another little bit that speeds up. And for me, just picturing it going into the ocean, traveling there, it makes me want to be there too. So, yeah, but I am, and I think somebody said something about lamenting the sea. Absolutely. I didn't think really that I wanted to continue living so close to it, but now I can't think about any other way. So that's been a bit of an eye opener for me. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Does it go into spate when you had a lot of rain? So, could you see a huge change into these little tiny waterways? Do they flood?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they do. They do not abide. This one particularly does not abide the man-made walls around it. There are also fields. So I have on my map, my new map, I have the Ochils here. This is just one hill. They sort of take up and dominate a huge amount of this landscape. And on the other side, there are a lot of farmers' fields. And you will see a lot of temporary locks appear that the geese here who have migrated absolutely love. So there are hundreds and hundreds of geese that love these temporary locks. But you can see it, you can see the land changes, and every day I wake up and I look out the window just to see what new pond or loch has appeared. So every day it's incredible, and it's been really special to be quite connected to that in some ways, but for me it's still not quite the ocean. So
okay, thank you very much. That's lovely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, happy to be here. Thanks, bye.
Okay, bye.